Hello everyone, I'm sitting with Vibeke Jensen. She is the director of UNESCO, the New York Liaison Office, and she's also the Secretariat of the Secretary General's Global Education First Initiative. She's kindly agreed to let us interview her after our briefing, which was held yesterday on the 3rd of April, Education for Global Citizenship. So Ms. Jensen, first, could you tell us if you could advocate for one sustainable development goal? What would that be?
That would definitely be on education. As you know, in the Millennium Development Goals, there was a specific goal dedicated to universal primary education, goal number 2. And while we have achieved quite a lot on that goal over the past 14 years now, we still have a way to go. We have 57 million kids who are currently out of school. And a huge number of young people who really should be in secondary education who are not there. So we need to finish the unfinished business from the MDG agenda. But we also have to make sure that children learn. And there has been a lot of focus over the past 14 years on getting children to access education, and maybe a little bit at the cost of the quality. That now needs to have really serious attention, because we have estimated 125 million kids who actually have gone to school, and they also spent more than 4 years in school, but they still don't have the basics in terms of literacy skills, accounting skills, and basic knowledge. So that's a serious issue, and we need to do something about that. And of course, we need, in order to tackle this quality issue, we need many more teachers. An estimated more than 3 million primary teachers over the next 2 years, if we wanted to have the 57 million kids in school. And an estimated around, I think it's 5 million secondary school teachers. So we have a lot to do. We also see very much education as really the basis for moving on any other sustainable development goal. Whether you talk about health, whether you talk about poverty eradication, economic growth, if you talk about peace, rule of law, good governance, etc., etc. You can name anything, and I would say yes, but you can't advance if you don't have education in place, and education of quality, and education which is relevant to the learners of the 21st century. And it's of course also the reason why the Secretary General in 2012 launched the Global Education First Initiative, because he really wanted to make sure that education wouldn't sort of slip off the agenda for the next 15 years. So this initiative of the Secretary General has put emphasis on 3 things. Access to education, putting every single child in school, the 57 million who are not there. Focusing on improving the quality of education and learning. And the third one is on global citizenship education, which in a way you can say is part and parcel of good quality education, but it's also in a way the ultimate goal of having an education system that really helps to have global citizens who can work together in a peaceful manner to create a better world for everyone.
Yes, I agree. Education is very foundational for a lot of other development areas. Okay, and the next question, can you briefly describe the relationship between UNESCO and global citizenship, and what is your role in that relationship?
So UNESCO has taken on to, together with a broad range of partners, to discuss what global citizenship education really is. UNESCO is the organization with a mandate in education, and as I said in the briefing yesterday, it's not that we haven't talked about global citizenship education before, and most countries in the world will have a subject area at some point in basic education system, which is dealing with kind of civics education. There are other elements about environmental education, climate change education, and so on and so forth. But the global citizenship education is really trying to bring all of this together to ultimately make sure that we have education systems which are of quality, which are inclusive, but which are also equipping the learners with the skills and the knowledge and the attitudes they need to become citizens that can drive the global sustainable development agenda forward. Peace is, of course, also a foundation, fundamental thing for that, but it's also, having not only the knowledge and awareness, but also the capacity to act. And I think with the challenges the world is facing, the other day the report from on climate change came out again, we are facing some very, very serious issues in regard to climate change, which will call on all of us to start behaving in a different way. We will have to adapt to the new situations, and we will, of course, also have to change our consumption behaviors, especially in the Western world, in terms of making sure that we really reduce the negative impact of climate change and escalating the issues which are leading to climate change further.
Definitely more conscious decisions.
So UNESCO is working, as I said, with governments and NGOs and stakeholders to gather information about good practices today on global citizenship education, and also try to come up with some guidelines for what it means. And as I also emphasized a lot yesterday, one thing is to have the knowledge about what a global citizen is, but another thing is that it's something that you also have to practice. And so while it needs to be integrated in curricula and in textbooks and so on, we also need to practice it in the schools and in the local communities, and we need to have teachers who are well equipped to do that. So it's about also changing teaching learning practices, democratizing what is going on in the school, getting children much more involved in their own learning, having different types of projects, open the school up to the community and so on.
Bridging the gap, theory practice. Okay, so for our third question, do you think that global citizenship should be manifested similarly across countries and cultures, or do you think that everyone should follow a similar thing?
No, I think that it's important that, of course, curriculum and curricula have to be developed in the national context, because they have to make sense in the context where they're going to be implemented. And different countries have different history and background and context and so on, and it has to come out of that. But of course, there's you can say maybe fundamental principles that need to be the same, and there are some good practices that countries can learn from, just like in any other curricular matter that it has to be anchored in the local country and society and so on, but there can be good practices that can be learned from other countries and adapted to that situation. But I think the basic messages, are more or less the same. I mean, we are trying to have learners that have the capacity and the skills and the attitudes to help bring the world forward in a peaceful manner, and with the necessary skills and knowledge to respond to the world's challenges of today.
Okay. One final question. Who should be the key developers of global citizenship education curriculum and or teacher training? Like you spoke of at the briefing. Should they be grassroots organizations, national government institutions, or international entities?
I think all of them. And I would say I would also like to see young people very much involved in that, because after all, you're the ones to take the world forward. So it's also in the context of the Global Education First initiative. There's a youth advocacy group, and it's an issue they have taken on also, and they're working quite a lot on. No, I think it's all we have a lot to learn from NGOs who are doing very interesting, sometimes small-scale projects with a couple of schools, trying to work on new learning methodologies and bringing schools and communities closer together and so on. So we have a lot to learn from that, and also see how we can mainstream it into national education policies and so on. But of course, we have to work very closely with ministries of education. They have, as always, a key role to play when it comes to education systems. And if we really want to have things to go to scale, we'll have to find ways of integrating good practices in national policies and teacher training policies and practices and so on. And of course, us international organizations, we have a role to play in bringing people together from different countries to share good practices, what works, what may not work so well in certain contexts, and try. And what we often do is that we are sort of on the basis of having analyzed projects and experiences in many countries, come up with some guidelines that countries can use if they so wish. So I think it's definitely a subject where the more citizens that get involved, the better.
Okay, good. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.